halfway through, after I put it up, I thought I'd like to have a change of my topic. Well, let's go on and then I'll tell you when I would like to change my topic. So, uh, there's a great calling for parents in this era because calling for parenting, the right kind of parenting, because we are the ones who are we are preparing the next generation. And so the Lord is calling us to do a different kind of parenting. When I say parenting, the young people here, you guys might think, well, I'm out of it and it's not for me. But I'm telling you, Paul wasn't a biological parent, but he had children. And in his prayer list, he carried a number of kids, number of children, and he brought forth for the next generation. So I'm giving you a responsibility. I'm giving you a challenge, so-called. So when I speak of parenting for the next generation, I must tell you this. Recently, we fixed up a guy, or I've been fixing up people with certain jobs, and lately they've been telling us, look, we don't want skill. We don't want a paper certificate. We are rather looking for emotional cohesion, which is, I would give a definition from the, Medium Webs or whatever, Wikipedia or whatever. I'll give you so that you will understand what the world is looking for right now today. Because a skill can be trained, but your emotional cohesion is not something that the world can train, but they are looking for it. There's a demand for it. There is a certain kind of, awakening, because the world has come to a place where, you can strive and be a queen, but you're no queen because you're not a queen here. You can be a leader. You can be highly educated, but you don't have that attitude in you. You don't have those qualities built into you. You can acquire the greatest, highest education and the skills, but you're not fit to be in that place. I'm talking about being kings and queens without a crown that the world could see. They're going to identify you from your behavior, from your emotions, attitudes, and your responses to the world. They're going to identify. And so, we've lived so long to see that there's a marked difference between the world and the church. And this is what the world is not going to read the Bible, aren't they? This is some quote, a certain Muslim, that fight cancer gentleman, he said, they're not going to read the Quran, but they're going to read your life. So be aware of it. Be what we would do. He's quoting as a Muslim. I'm telling you, people are not going to read the Bible today. They don't know. They're not interested, but they're going to read your life. They're going to read my life. They're going to read not my words. They're going to not hear it. They're going to read it through your words, between your words, through your life. So there's a great calling and a demand for a different kind of parenting for the next generation. So as I told you, I think I put it up, on what emotional cohesion is the ability to understand, use and manage your own emotions in a positive way to relieve stress, communicate effectively and productively, empathize with others. This is a list of what Wikipedia said. Overcome challenges and diffuse conflict, the capacity to be aware of the surroundings, control and express one's emotions productively, handle interpersonal relationships judicially, in good judgments, and empathetically. So this is emotional intelligence. So I'm asking you, these are not taught in schools. These are not taken from books. This is something that as parents we need to cultivate in the lives of the children that the Lord has given. So once again, I'm not talking about only the biological parenting side, But if ever the Lord brings someone into your life as a friend, as a close confidant, or as someone brings someone to your life, you have to know, I'm telling you, that you are a parent for that particular person. You are a spiritual parent. You are parenting someone in your life, in your capacity, in your age. There is no age limit. There is no, I'm saying that there is a call for parenting these days. Because the world has come to a place where there's squabbling and quarreling for position, for their attitudes. They can be sitting on thrones, but they're not fit to be kings. There's so much deceit. So the Lord is calling for a different kind of next generation. It's such a need in the society today. And so, having said that, I'm just asking you, do you see a need around you? You are working in different places, in your offices, in the world, because we spend so much little time in this little building, right? We go out. There's a calling, there's a demand for people with high EQ, emotional cohesion, right? We are after IQ, intelligence cohesion. From the day our child is born, what is your prayer like? Just listen to your own prayers and see what we are reaching, what we are targeting, which we are running after. But there's a demand for this as well in this generation. And so this development of emotional cohesion is first done by the foundations are laid by the parents, and secondly by your peers, the siblings in the house, and then by your peers, and then the society, because the society fashions and your peers fashion your attitudes, your responses, and how empathetically you can look at a situation, how you control your emotions, how impulsive you are. They are controlled by the others around us. And so the foundations are laid by the parents. So I'm just going to talk to you about the influences a child may have. When I speak of a child, I'm talking of different age groups. So firstly, I want to say that the influence of nature upon a child is very great. When I talk about influence of nature, I'm talking about the inherited qualities, the innate characteristics I may acquire from my genes, from my parents. And these have a great impact upon our lives, which we say, okay, what you have inherited, what is your genes cannot be changed. So I agree with it, because my characteristics comes from genes partly. And so if I go to the scriptures to prove myself, I'll talk to you about Abraham. Abraham in the book of Genesis chapter 20, some of the scriptures I'm not going to read, I put it up for your reference. And we see that Abraham in a certain country, he lied in fear of losing his wife. He thought the Abimelech might take his wife. And so we find in Genesis chapter 26, verses 1 to 7, his son Isaac did the same thing, the very same thing. This is a very simple illustration, example, but I want to prove to you that the Bible confirms that genetically inherited characteristics and qualities can have a great impact on the child's character, the personality, and what goes on within. And also, secondly, I would say that there's a great influence of nurture upon my behavior and personality. Nurture, when I say nurture, you are nurtured by the environment. You are nurtured by what is around you, what you live with. So now taking two identical twins, this is a scientific scientific analysis that the psychiatrists have done, psychologists rather have done. And you take two identical twins and make them to grow up in two different environments, and one happened to be living among the among the thieves, so-called, and deceitful and rough and tough parents, and one happened to be brought up in an environment where there was peace and their attitudes were right. And then you find one day when they grew up, they both had the 50-50 percentage of the same genes. They share the same amount of genes. And then one turned out to be talking all the rubbish. You can think of the weird characteristic you could ever see. And the other one happened to display very different characteristics. So I want you to see the impact of nature, the nurture, the environment upon a child's life. So where you are growing, the environment in which you are growing and you're acquiring your attitudes, your patterns of behavior, your responses come from the environment, partly from your genes, but those things can be changed over the period. And so in saying that, I like to take you to the life of Jacob. See, Jacob was the grandson of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, right? So Abraham was considered to be a very righteous man. And Abraham, the Lord said, Abraham, I'm going to choose you because I believe and I trust you to pass down everything that you sow and that what I did in your life to your children, to your children's children. When you sit down, when you wake up, when you live your life in the normal day-to-day things, you will transmit what I have done in your life. And I believe he did so. And so, but then when he came, and Isaac, he brought up in such a manner, and then came to Jacob, and see, Jacob had the good genes, the perfect genes. He came from a good family line, and yet you see what happened to Jacob. He was a deceiver. He was a deceiver. And who was responsible? Looking through the whole story, I would suggest, well, I wouldn't suggest, I'm just picking up from the scriptures, that his mom was totally responsible. And she gave such selfish motives for this man to grab and gain whatever he could, to be a winner, to outbid the other. And he became what he was because his mom encouraged, right? And when she did that, she never realized the price that Jacob had to pay ultimately. He had to walk with a limp. His hip socket was broken, joint was broken. Why? Because the Lord could not break that, character that has been so, embedded into him. He was a cheater to the very end, and until he met the master cheater of his life, his father-in-law. He thought he could win. Why? The mother taught him, you have to win at every situation. The mother taught him, okay, if you do this, you can do that. You can gain. She was after the materialistic gain that the world can give. Of course he did. He acquired so much wealth. He had so much, but yet he failed in one area. His responses, his emotions did not match with what God desired. So he had to pay a great price. And I'm telling you, moms, the mom wasn't there to see him limping with so much greatest difficulty. Sometimes we bring up our children in a certain way, and we bring up our spiritual children we influence our spiritual children in such a way that we won't be there to see their trauma in their offices, to see what they're going to face in the society. Because the society is going to read his life, not his words, his attitudes, his emotions, his responses, his behavior. But so we are responsible in a way. And so I'm trying to prove to you that the environment can change, and our parenting can put the wrong kind of attitudes into the hearts and lives of people, because we can make our children so grabby, make them so competitive to win the race in a worldly manner. So I'm telling you, parents, be conscious of it, and take responsibility. And he fought a lone battle. It says that the day that the Lord broke his hip joint, he was all by himself. His mom wasn't there, who did the damage. Well, parents don't intentionally do damage, but she did. By her wrong kind of attitudes she transmitted to the child. And it says that he was alone, and at the daybreak, until the daybreak, the Lord tried to change him. Over the years, the Lord met with him. He said, okay, Jacob, rise up, go to Bethel. And every time he goes to Bethel, he keeps reminding, okay, didn't I promise you I'm going to give you, my inheritance will come to you. You don't have to fight for it. Go back to Bethel, remind yourself, it comes to you because I love you, because I made a promise to you. You don't have to fight for your blessings. But he never understood until he had to pay for it with his hip bone. And so Rebecca had a great influence. So parents, our home environment has a great influence. Sometimes we don't articulate, or we don't directly say, you're going to grab this, you have to take it, it doesn't matter, you just cut and chop the people around you, rise up, wake up, go up to your target. We don't say it in words, but this is the vibes that we give off to our children. And so and also I want to tell you that the people that we associate with, also connected to you, also influence our life. Like, see the life of Samson in 1 Kings chapter 11 and verse 4. And see Solomon's life in 1 Kings chapter 1. In both it says, as Solomon grew old, his wives turned his heart after other gods. And in Samson it says about Samson, as he grew old, his wife the wives turned their hearts. So the people that are closely connected to you, you associate with, can change your heart, can change your attitudes, can change your principles, if we don't have a strong principle upon which we could stand. So I'm telling you that environment changes the personality, the behavior, the emotions of people. So it is very important that you choose the right kind of friends. And it is important that as parents that we give them the opportunity to choose their friends and watch them and guide them in these things. And so having said that, another example I like to bring is Salome. Salome was a great mom, and her two sons became great disciples under the leadership of Jesus. One day she walks up to Jesus in the book of Matthew chapter 20, 21. It says, I have a request to make. What was the request? Very sensual request. All parents, every mom, every dad. Well, I won't exclude the dads here. Right here it's mentioned about the ladies, because I think most children in their growing ages, they get attached to their mothers, so there's a great responsibility. I have brought two grown up, I've taken care of two munchkins, you know them. And I'm great. I'm a proud mom, not for anything else. The things, the strategies that we've, developed and practiced in our family has brought results. And I think I am well capable to talk. I'm not talking proudly, because we are not the perfect moms 24/7. With all our shortcomings, I am trying to share with you certain strategies that we developed in the house, so that you could catch them, you could use them, and bring up a next generation that is better than ours. So Salome said, I want my sons to sit one at your right and one at your left. And then Jesus said, do you know what you're asking for? It was a sad story, right? And in Matthew's Gospel 20, 21, it says, and then again back down, when you go right down again, who comes after that? James and John also come and make a request. First the mom comes. Or I don't know which one came first. The boys came first and the mom came second, I don't know. I'm asking you, how many times have you tried to influence someone to get your child someplace? Well, I see it all the time in the Sunday school sometimes. It's a sad story. Why can't you give my child to, act? Don't give I like her to, or I like him to sing. Don't give her to act. No, she can, why is this, my little child is not in the, the middle class, and why had my child been put to the smaller class? And how many times have you fought for your on behalf of your children to get position? How many times have you gone up to the teachers and tried to promote your child? Well, I'm telling you, don't get involved with your child's promoting, because that is totally up to the teacher or the leader who is handling the whole thing. And what happened eventually? The mother came and asked Jesus, and then the two boys caught the same attitude. The two boys came and asked for the same positions. Jesus, can we have your positions to sit at the right and the left? How many times have we got involved in the issues of children's life? Look here, there is a time that we can get involved, but there is a time we got to let go their hands off your skirts. They'll tag on to your clothes for some time, and you will do the best to, tag them along and promote them to this one, to that one. My child is more qualified, more skillful, more talented. Why haven't you used? We will fight for them. How many are guilty of that? I'm telling you, in that kind of way, we will try to bring competition to the hearts of our children. They will be competing in the society. They will be competing with, in the church, they will compete in the society. And eventually, we are just stagnant in the same generation. The same generation. I'm talking about the next generation. I'm talking about a new generation that the world is looking for. And there's a demand for a different type of generation world over. And so this is a sad story, very pathetic. So and I want to talk to you about I'm going to talk to you about how we can bring or make it happen, a next generation, new generation, right? So our genes are altered. We have our genes that we've acquired from birth, and at a certain point when Jesus comes into our lives, our genes are altered. We need to transmit and transfer the altered genes and the altered patterns of life into our children, whether it be biological or spiritual. In the book of Corinthians chapter 15 and verse 45, it says, "It is written that the first man, Adam, became a living being, and the last Adam, a life-giving spirit." And just, in this message, this is something that just pierced my heart. We have the nature, the first Adam had the nature of God, but he was made of dust. And so he had the capacity to, get connected with sin faster. But then when Jesus, who is called the second Adam, was identified as a life-giving spirit, when the life-giving spirit came into us, he started altering our genes. The biological genes were altered because now we become one. We cannot be separated. So someone recently explained this as ginger tea or lemon tea. Say it's all mingled in one. It's just one thing. You could get like a little hint of lime flavor, a little hint of tea and sugar. And if you ever want to separate the three, you can never do that. That is because we become one. Just like that, this life-giving spirit, the second Adam, Jesus is identified as second Adam, who gives the life-giving spirit comes into you. When you invite Jesus, you invite the life-giving spirit, who is different from the first Adam, who had he was made in the likeness of God, but we are made just like we become one with him. We cannot separate. So our genes started altering within us. The biological genes that came down, that kind of jealous, that kind of competitive spirit, that kind of grabby spirit, that deceitful spirit that came down from our genes are now being automatically, without unconsciously, I would rather use the word unconsciously, the life-giving spirit, when their life comes in, the death has to go. So when the life-giving spirit entered us, he started altering those genes. And I'm telling you, we need to transmit those genes into the next generations. And so as it goes on, it says that the spiritual did not come first, but the natural. And after that, the spiritual. The first was a natural thing. So naturally, when there's something natural, there's a striving going on. We need to do this, to that, and so that we could, transmit the best thing to my children, to portray the best person, be the best mom, be the best dad, and give the right kind of attitude, right kind of instruction. There's a striving, there's a effort. But it says that, the first man was of the dust of the earth, and the second man is of heaven. So have I put down the rest? No. Maybe. And it says, as was the earthly man, so are those who are of the earth. And as is the heavenly man, so also are those who are of heaven. And just as we have borne the image of the earthly man, so shall we bear the image of the heavenly man. So automatically, the natural begins to change into supernatural when the life-giving spirit enters into us. And then there is no striving, there is no battling, striving to be the perfect mom before children. And you and I all know we are never the perfect 100% all day long, 24/7. There are occasions that we portray the natural. But I'm telling you a strategy so that we could transmit the genes, the altered genes of the second Adam, the altered genes of the life-giving spirit that is at work within us. And I'm telling you, there is a great need for that. So this is a simultaneous process where we don't have to, first let me strive, let me be good, and let me make capacity within me for the life-giving spirit to change my genes, and then I will transfer. By that time, your children will be grown up. By the time they'll be in the society, meeting all the challenges of life. This is a simultaneous process. It has to happen simultaneously. It has to happen supernaturally. It is not a natural process. So believe in the life-giving spirit that is within me, that is capable of altering my genes, and that is also capable of transmitting those genes into my next generation. Not only at birth we transmit biologically, but when they are born, I told you how the environment affects them, how the nature, the innate characteristic that we acquire from parents is the best. But this natural biological genes begins to change as we respond, as we continually focus our heart upon the genes that can be altered within us. And so I'm asking, what is my contribution for the next generation? Do you feel that there's a responsibility, that there's a need, there's a demand? So I'm telling you, there are different stages of development in a child's life. It is a physical development, which we are so focused from the day the baby is born. What kind of the physical development, the best food we can give, the best vitamins we can give, the food, the clothing. Okay, we think of what's the best school I can think of. We are so focused as parents to see them doing well in life physically, a physical development, their body development, food and clothing and best school, and then the cognitive development, that is the capacity to work out maths, your brain development, IQ, brain development. We look for the best school, we look for the best tutors, we look for toys that can develop their mind development, we look for things that can really, we are so focused. Good. I'm not saying it's bad. And I want to focus on two other development areas that we have kind of neglected. So I'm telling you, don't listen to me and try to think how good we've been. I would rather urge you to think, where have we failed? Where have I failed? So every parent's desires to give the best food, the best education, the best brain development toys, or whatever you can go, give the child to develop their IQ. And what about social development? Do you realize that your child needs social development? A child has to grow and develop socially. This is why, uh, well, want to ask you a question. Uh, okay, I'll just ask you, would you like to hang around a 2-year-old? Brother, right? Rajini, no. Would you like to hang around a 60-year-old? Manori? No. We are looking for peers of the same age, of the same category. When God created heaven and earth, He made the animals, He made everything, but He looked for someone just like Him to communicate, to enjoy with each other. So similarly, when your child is in the Montessori, he would love to hang around you. But when, as the child grows up, they would want peers of their own age, their range, right? And then they come to the teenage, right? They're looking for peers of the same age. And what would we do? No way. You're my baby. You're going to hang around my skirt. You think you're doing good to the child? I doubt so. Because that's a requirement, that's a need of a child. And so we think we are it's a perfect parenting. Not allowing them to go out, preserving and protecting. Yes, of course, it's your responsibility. But don't you see a need in that child's life? As a teenager, that's the age that they love to be a little independent. It's a path between. They want to be independent, they want you. They will go on for a while until they just want to take off, the total independence. So if we don't do that, we make them socially handicapped. You realize how tough for a child to go out into the world without you. You are all the time tagging that child along your skirt around your, men. I'm not excluding you. I'm just keep talking about moms, right? You just try to keep them with you as long as possible, thinking, oh, my child doesn't go out to play with kids. They love to be around us. Well, good. But you're making a socially handicapped being. They want their own peers of the same age group. And when they go out to the society, they are bullied. They feel that they cannot cope with the pressures of the society. So you got to gradually introduce them into this society that they have to grow with. They have to live with. They have to cope with all the things that come against them. And so we need to allow the children to be socially developed. So in 1 Corinthians chapter 15 it says, do not be misled, bad company corrupts good character. So we need to choose the kind of environment, the friends that they have to live with, but they have to choose their own. We need to guide them. That is what is required. And so and it is a responsibility of the parents to, when they are young, to guide the kind of friends that they could hang out with. But if you totally keep them at home and expect them to be ready to meet the society, as I told you before, we are giving to the world the socially handicapped children. They're not ready to meet the challenges of the world. And also sometimes we need to, I'm telling you, these words may be a bit hard on you, but we have the attitude sometimes that the children in school that we meet from morning 7:30 till 1:30, roughly around 5 to 6 hours or maybe more, that they are good, they are better than the children in the church. I'm speaking hard truth, right? You don't know the backgrounds that the children in that school come from, the children they associate with, but you happen to know a little bit more about the children that come to church and they think, they're not good enough. They're this, they're that. But I'm telling you, aren't we undermining the life-giving spirit in us, in that child, in that child who has Christ in them? Maybe they're not the perfect, the best. But as for me, all those little ones here are the best and perfect for me. I love you all, truly. because I see something totally different from what I see in the world in you. So I'm telling you, parents, you need to cultivate the new genes in us, the altered genes that says whoever has the Spirit of God has the Christ mingled in them. Whoever has the life-giving spirit, the life-giving the spirit in a child has a greater and a better impact on my child than the school. We need to make a choice about whom they are associating with. Do you prefer the world association, or do you prefer the children of the church? When I say church, I'm talking about children in whom the life of God is there. And so we put our pressure, we create a kind of we give off vibes. Okay, that child is poor. That child is, we don't tell these words, right? Okay, you might be very happy thinking, no, I've never said that. Well, we might give off such vibes in our conversation, in our attitudes, in our, the things that we do with the children. So I'm telling you, promote the associations in the church. I'm talking with experience, having brought up 2 kids, now grown up, 2 munchkins. We've had occasions where we have selected a poor family for their association and sent them to spend the day. And they came home with tears and said, Ami, they don't have even a bed to sleep on. I didn't mind them going to that poor house and having a little food. They were totally poor in our kind of estimate. Because I want them to understand being poor is no different from us. Being Tamil, being Muslim has no difference. And in certain occasions, they wanted to bring their Muslim friends home. They wanted to treat their Tamil friends. Well, you might say, well, we also do that. It's a good thing. I'm telling you, so much hatred towards communities, so much differences in poor and the rich. I'm telling you, isn't it the responsibility of the spiritual parents and the biological parents to change the next generation by the vibes that we give, by our attitudes that we transmit without words? So we need to cultivate certain things. And also, that is it. And so I'm trying to emphasize the need of social development. And the least interested development is the sad story, the spiritual development. We are so focused on physical development, so focused on cognitive development, and may or may not be the social development, and the least of all is the spiritual development. When I talk about the spiritual development, most parents think, okay, I get them to pray every day, they have to get up at a certain time, they have to read the Bible, and so on and so forth. I'm talking about more than that, that. Because the mother of James and John, the sons of Zebedee and Salome, were great parents, I think. But there were little shortcomings. Salome wanted the very sensual desire. She had wanted them to sit on the right and the left. But you see, she also pushed them to a spiritual development where she wouldn't mind. She would let go their children to hang around with Jesus. Jesus wasn't the most popular character then, but she saw something different, so she let go. And so spiritually, we have to have a vision for their spiritual vision for our children, and we need to pass down a heavenly vision for our children. So I'm asking you a question: do you have a heavenly vision for your children? And I'm suggesting that we listen to our own prayers about our children. What do we pray for? Mostly protection, wisdom to study in school. What else? These are the general basic ones. Maybe you are different. So I'm urging you once again, don't go through what I said and think, well, I didn't do that. I am okay. I never did that. I tried this. I tried this. But I see in my life lots of things that I feel I could have done, I should have done. So many regrets. So, we can give our best laboring for our children. We can break rest. We can take them for tuition, sit and teach them, sit with them through nights when they study. I've gone through all those phases. And but we don't have to be the perfect mom and dad naturally, because we cannot be. But if we do two things in their lives, we are great moms and dads. That is, if we lay spiritual foundations in their lives, we are great moms and dads. So, it speaks of Eunice and Lois, right? So that's Eunice is Timothy's mom and Lois is grandma. So it speaks of two. They are not spoken of in the Bible as women who did great things. They were not evangelists. They weren't great healers. They weren't great preachers. But they are mentioned here in the Bible as two great women who laid spiritual foundation upon Timothy's life. And it says that their sincere faith in Timothy chapter 2 and verse 1 to 4, that they had sincere faith towards God, and they made sure that it was passed down to Timothy. And she was, they taught him the scriptures. They created a desire and a passion for the word of God in the heart of Timothy. And so they did their part. Some certain things that we cannot do, in labor, in physical labor, we can do on our knees. And especially the spiritual development is made not by how we teach them, not by how we bring them to a Bible study or a prayer meeting or a family prayers. Most of us are very satisfied bringing a child to the family prayers and putting them to the Sunday school. Those are good things. Those are the beginnings. But there's more to it than that. If we want to put spiritual foundations in their life, there's more to it. It is done on our knees. And so I'm telling you, moms, dads, listen to your prayers and see what kind of prayers do we pray for our children. It is about school and education, right? It is about this child doesn't behave well. It is about protection. It is about becoming first in class. It is about, achieving that goal and this goal. Well, those are not prohibited in the scriptures. But I'm telling you, there's a call for different kind of parenting in this era. And I would call that apostolic parenting. And apostolic parenting is required in this era. So who is an apostle? Apostle is a person who lays foundations. Apostle is a person who starts things and it cannot be seen. It is seed level. So Paul, being an apostle, I picked up a lot of apostolic prayers in his text, in his in the books that he wrote. And over the years, I'm not standing as a perfect mom, but I certainly do believe the seeds that were sown many years ago with these apostolic prayers in their lives, I'm seeing results. They're not the two perfect guys on earth, but I see the spiritual development. I see their emotional cohesion. I see the attitudes. And I know for sure that we haven't passed it down totally to them, because we had our biological genes coming from different generations where I had a different kind of upbringing, he had a different kind of upbringing. We weren't the perfect people, but we transmitted to them a different level of spiritual what should I say, spiritual foundation, a different level. When I speak of different level, I'm taking my hands off the upbringing. I'm saying when it's a different level, it's a spiritual, it happens spiritually. First the natural, we were natural, then the spiritual, then we transmitted those modified, changed genes into the lives of our children through prayer. And it wasn't a prayer of sensual prayers. I'm not judging anyone. I'm asking you to take, pick up the value of praying the apostolic prayers over your children. Apostolic parenting is what is required. See, Timothy was on Paul's prayer list. Paul wasn't married, right? He was celebrating celibacy. He wasn't a married guy. But Timothy was Paul's spiritual son. So I'm telling you once again, you all have a spiritual son, a daughter. And I'm telling you, with all sincerity, every day, when I say every day, I pray for you as my spiritual sons and daughters. I pray these apostolic prayers over your lives. And you may not know, I may not see, but I believe the seeds that are sown is laying foundation upon foundation upon foundations. So, having said that, I want to take you down to some of the things that I prayed for. I'm praying for you. And so I'm telling you, if you're not married or if you don't have children yet, or whatever, I'm telling you, you are a spiritual parent to someone who comes close to you. You have a responsibility, because that person who comes to you is not connected to me. He has something in common with you, likes to hang around you, likes to be a part of you. So see that you not only teach, but pray over those people, because you are taught to be a parent even before you're married. And so we can give our sleep, deprive ourselves of every pleasure in life to be good parents, the perfect parents, but those are not what is going to lay spiritual foundations in the lives of the people, of your sons and daughters. Those are not the things that are going to develop the emotional cohesion in their lives. You know, I was speaking to a guy, they were given bonus recently. And so this person did not receive as much as the other person. In 3 categories, they were given the bonus. And so this person said, well, I'm happy for the person who has got more, because she deserves. She works like nothing. She deserves what she got. And so to hear that was so encouraging, because that's the kind of attitude the world is looking for. And so this another person, gave up his job at a certain place, and his replacement came over there. This guy would travel all the way back to the former office at his expense to train the new guy. And it was kind of, in the worldly sense, it's such a joke. He's not paid for his transport. He's not paid for his time is invested on what? To a company that does not bring him a return anymore. He has given up, resigned, but he goes all the way back from somewhere, to long distance, back for what? To train. This replacement, that is called the emotional cohesion. You look at a thing with empathy. You manage your emotions. You learn it's teamwork. You learn to work with each other. Your temperaments are so under control. And who taught? Who can teach such things? Can we? I'm saying it, we can't. These are not taught. These are not, I don't know, maybe it could be caught. But I believe strongly those are foundations laid in the spiritual realm through prayers. So if you see a different guy in the society, you please find out where they emerge from, where their beginnings are. And you'll know there's somewhere someone praying for them. I don't make a distinction. This is the truth. Someone somewhere is praying for someone they have a change of attitude. They have a different perception about life, about things, and how they see things. It's so easy to work with people. Even within the church, we always say, we don't want skillful people anymore. Skill can be taught, but we want kindred spirits. We want teachable hearts. We want good attitudes. That's the time only we can work together. You can have the greatest talent of being a leader, but that leadership is of no use, not to us, not to the world, because you have not learned to, interpersonal relationships. You have not developed. You have not learned to work in a team. I mean, church concept is a team effort. It's a family. It's called the fellowship. Not only our church. It's a church fellowship. It's called the living together, coexistence. If we have not learned the art. The world has not learned the art. That is why so much of conflict. So I'm telling you, recently when we tried to introduce a guy to one of the officers to work, he said, look, I can teach. I can send them to do classes. Send them to classes and get them to learn the work. But I want some people who have good attitudes. So when they do evaluations in offices, they not only see to the work, they see to the attitudes, how you cope with the team. And then they go to the team members and ask for their responses regarding their leader. And then they promote you. So we can have education qualifications, we can push the children to the max, and yet if this is not cultivated, I'm telling you, we have not done the job of a parent, a spiritual parent. We are just as similar to the parenting system of the world. So, apostolic parenting is such a demand in our times. So I'll share with you just two scriptures that I would pray. I would pray this prayer. If you want to really go through the series of apostolic prayers, you can go to all the books that Paul wrote, and the very first first chapter or so, you find the prayers that Paul prayed over his children in Corinth, his children in Philippi, in Thessalonica, in Colossians. He was somewhere, he was in Corinth, but he went on his knees and he laid foundations for all of his spiritual children in different cities. Colossians chapter 1 and verse 9. For this reason, since the day we heard about you, we have not stopped praying for you. We continually ask God. What does he ask God? He says, we continually ask God to fill you with the knowledge of his will through all spiritual wisdom and understanding that the Spirit gives. Have you ever prayed this kind of prayer? We would pray for wisdom. What wisdom? To pass the exams. Paul is saying, give him spiritual wisdom. Fill him with the knowledge of your will, the knowledge of heaven's will upon his life through all spiritual wisdom and understanding. Right? So, spiritual wisdom that comes from the Spirit is peace-loving, and it comes with the ability to give you the know-how. So, I'm telling you. And then he said, that is, can you just, being strengthened with, or am I reading correct? Am I going on? No, I missed. So here I am going to tell you a list of benefits in this prayer. It says in 10, so that you may live a life worthy of the Lord and please him in every way. Right. So Paul is praying one prayer. Fill them with the knowledge of your will, so that with all spiritual wisdom and understanding, so that what? They may live a life worthy of the Lord. Right? Now, you don't think that I'm forgetting about school, child's school education, my child's career. No, when you read on, you have all the benefits of all that you are desiring, but you're praying a different kind of prayer. You're relying on the Lord, and you're not naming them one by one in the sensual way that I feel and I want, but rather I would say fill them with the knowledge of your will with all spiritual wisdom and understanding, so that they may live a life worthy of the Lord and please Him in every way, bearing fruit in every good work. Every good work, bearing fruit in every good work. Growing in the knowledge of God, all in one. Can you see the benefits? His desire is that they will grow spiritually. They'll have fruit in every good work. And they will be. They'll grow in the knowledge of God. And verse 11 says, being strengthened with all power according to His glorious might. Now it's total reliance, Lord. When they are strengthened with power through your might, through your power, glorious power, so that they may have great endurance and patience. What are we praying? Emotional cohesion. They'll have great endurance, they'll have great strength, they'll bear fruit in the good works that they do, and giving joyful thanks to the Father who has qualified you to share the inheritance of His holy people in the kingdom. Now what are we doing? Lord, teach them to worship you. They be motivated when they are filled with the knowledge of your will. We don't bring them here and say, okay, lift up your hands and worship. No. One prayer, this is what an apostle does. An apostle gives the principles and they lay a foundation, and upon it the people build their lives. So I'm praying for my spiritual sons and daughters this prayer, and I pray for my biological sons this prayer. Lord, fill them with the knowledge of your will, with all spiritual wisdom and understanding, so that they may bear fruit in every good work. They'll be joyfully giving thanks unto you, to the Father who has translated you from the kingdom of darkness into the kingdom of light. And they will give joyfully thanks, and they'll have patience, they'll have endurance. What am I praying? I'm taking the prayers of Paul, the apostolic prayers, and praying over my children. And so another prayer, if I have time, I will share with you. If you want, you can meet me personally. I'll give you the whole list of apostolic prayers that I prayed for. And one other thing is Philippians chapter 1 and verse 7. It says, and this is my prayer, that your love may abound more and more in knowledge and depth of insight. Right? One prayer he's saying that, Lord, your love that comes from me, you may abound in them more and more. With what? With knowledge and depth of insight. It is His knowledge will be His brain, His membranes. The brain will be filled with what? The knowledge that comes from you. And depth of insight. Aren't we praying what you are really requiring, instead of saying, Lord, give him wisdom to do maths, give him wisdom to do geography, art? No. We are saying, Lord, when they are filled with your love is a powerful weapon. Love is just not a honey, sweet, that kind of love we give those little chubby little babies, cuties. No, that's one aspect of love which is so sensual. I'm talking about the powerful dynamite love. Has the power to, because His love will work in us what He wants me to be. The love is an emotional factor that begins to grow in us, begins to do a work deep down in us, and He work in our emotions. We'll be so empathetically looking at people. We will be so understanding about their lives, their situations, and we will match up to that love. This is what Paul is praying, and says, so that you may be able to discern, see the result of this. When that their love abounds more and more in knowledge and depth of insight, they may be able to discern what is best and pure and blameless for the day of Christ. Aren't we praying what you're really requiring? You put it in your own words. I feel much safer praying this rather than putting it in my own words. So I'm laying foundations, I'm putting seeds, right? So according to the time, I'll share with you one more secret of mine, the recipes. And the other thing I keep telling the Lord, Ephesians 3:16, which I haven't put here, thought no time. So Ephesians 3:16 says, I continually pray, Lord, I pray for you. I'm telling you, sincerely. Every day I pray, Lord, I want them to be consciously aware of your presence in their life. And so, in order for that to happen, I'm praying Ephesians 3:16, because that's the sweetest thing I enjoy, the conscious awareness of His presence. Conscious awareness is not when I come to church and worship for half an hour and I feel the goosebumps. That's being conscious. That's perfectly okay. And I'm expecting it all the time at home also. And so I'm saying that's such a sweetest thing in my life, and that keeps me, nothing can give me that joy, that pleasure, and I want everything that I enjoy, I want you to have. So I'm praying Ephesians 3:16, it says, Lord, I want you to strengthen their inner being with might, so that you may dwell in their hearts richly. It's an act of faith. By faith, let them know that you live in their hearts richly. I don't have to sing 5 songs. I don't have to, enter into a time of worship. I don't have to, sing about the blood. But the moment you close your eyes, to be aware that you are dwell in my heart richly. Strengthen me with might. It's a fact that constantly waver in your heart, and you keep saying, don't take the Spirit away from me, Lord, don't be aware that, like David said. Well, David, obviously he didn't know that Christ dwells in him. He lived in the Old Testament. We have such an advantage. He lives in my heart. And so to know that is sometimes difficult, because the environment doesn't say so. You don't feel so. But I keep saying, Lord, strengthen their inner being with might, that Christ may dwell in their hearts richly by faith. And so that they may comprehend the length, the breadth, the depth of your great and amazing love. And when they know the length, the breadth, the depth of your amazing love, they'll come to the fullness of Christ. And thereafter he says, when you come, that is the power that's going to answer all your prayers. That's the power. According to the power that works in us, you will have everything that you think or imagine. What's the power? I don't relate it to the power of the Holy Spirit. I relate it to the power of love that we have understood, the capacity we have, the knowledge that we are loved by a Father, and that is the power that always gives me that perfect assurance. Well, I have what I have asked for. I'm going to have it, because the Father loves me, because I've understood His great love, and I want you to understand that. And I cannot teach you this. I cannot call you and tell you one by one, okay, do this, you'll have. But I can on my knees like Paul, and lay a foundation in your heart. Look, you may not know, these prayers lay foundations. These are apostolic prayers. We are building a next generation people. We are investing for a new generation. So as I said earlier, I'd like to change this new generation, the next generation, to a call for apostolic parenting for next generation. Well, if you're putting down on our page, come on, guys, you listen. I want this change to apostolic parenting for next generation. Okay, that's my theme. Apostolic parenting for next generation. So I'm calling you, I'm giving you a challenge. This is the apostolic parenting system. You can labor, you can break rest, you can pray for all the details, all the 10 subjects that they do in school, perfect. But I'm telling you, spiritual development is far more important, because it covers every aspect of it. You see, just these 2 prayers. Go through this New Testament, turn to Paul's writings, and first chapter of almost every book has his apostolic prayer for that particular church. In Corinth, in Ephesians, in Colossians, Galatians, he lays foundation for those churches right in Corinth. Sits at home there, and he goes down on his knees and pray for his spiritual children. So I'm calling you, I'm giving you a challenge. This may not be very interesting, I don't know, but this is my desire. This is my greatest desire, to lay in your hearts the call to build the next generation with what? IQ? No. Emotional cohesion. That's the demand. That's the need of the nation. That's the need of the church, because the world is not going to read the Bible. The world is going to read you through your attitudes, to your reactions, to your behavior, through your personality. Your personality is totally based on your emotional cohesion, because personality is not something that you can hide with your learning, with your education, the high level of, the capacities that you hold in offices. Personality is an automatic outflow of what you are within. What we are within is something that has to be, a foundation has to be laid for what is within you. Come on, let's build foundations. Not for your, when you pray for your children, remember the children of the same age group. And that's a wonderful thing that you can do. Do you know that you're carrying out a greatest ministry on earth? Paul never went to certain places. Paul is not the kind of person who will pray for your bread and butter and for your food and, buns and KFC stuff and all. But he would pray, this is what he would pray. And if you have a call, you have to catch hold of this. And then I'm telling you, please, I'm urging you, don't go through the earlier stuff that I told you and say, no, I never did that to my children. I always do this. No, look at it and see where have I failed, and try to build that up. And also, I'm telling you, we had a wonderful session with the parents some time ago, and we had not such a big response. So try to learn from the older. Shiran's mother, when my kids were small, I used to talk with her. There's so much I learned from her. Some of the things I put into practice, and some of the things I repeat to some of the parents. I tell this one thing that she told me that caught my attention. Right? They were older parents. It's rather than Google, reading the Google to bring up. I had a book, mother care book, when the kids were small. I used to refer to the glossary. We didn't have the Google, so I brought up certain things. The physical development side was totally on mother care books. So now we have the Google. But then the spiritual development, I want it from the mothers who are spiritually committed. So I would listen to them. I would speak to so many. When my sons were small, I would speak to young mothers with, in their who should have children in their 40s and 30s, and I would think, how did you send them for tuition? How did you manage with girlfriends? How did you do this? How did you do that? And I would take them into my heart, because they are first-hand information. They're not books. So I'm telling you, when we organize something, we mean it. We want to give you. And unfortunately, we had more grandparents than parents coming in for that seminar. When I was a young mom and when kids were very small, I learned from one of him, and the other one is not present here, Ranthilini's mother. She used to say things that she does. It's like the tried out recipes. They have to catch their trends, catch their ways of doing things. I'm advising you, just have a chat with spiritual moms. How do you do that? How do you do that? How did you pray? How do you tackle? How do you handle? And there's so much to learn from people who have tried and trusted recipes in their lives, right? So I'm urging you, I'm encouraging you to make a commitment. What is your contribution to the next generation? It is only education, it is only feeding, it is only sending them to church. Beyond sending them to church, there's a requirement. Well, you can send them to church, sure enough. There's a calling for something more than that, beyond that. So shall you rise up? And I'll ask you to pray there.